Leonardo di Ser Piero da Vinci, born in April 15, 1452 to May 2, 1519, was an Italian polymath of the High Renaissance who was active as a painter, draftsman, engineer, scientist, theorist, sculptor, and architect. While his fame initially rested on his achievements as a painter, he also became known for his notebooks, in which he made drawings and notes on a variety of subjects, including anatomy, astronomy, botany, cartography, painting, and paleontology. Leonardo is widely regarded to have been a genius who epitomized the Renaissance humanist ideal, and his collective works comprise a contribution to later generations of artists matched only by that of his younger contemporary by 23 years Michelangelo Buonarroti. Born out of wedlock to a successful notary and a lower-class woman in, or near, Vinci, he was educated in Florence by the Italian painter and sculptor Andrea del Verrocchio. He began his career in the city, but then spent much time in the service of Ludovico Sforza in Milan. Later, he worked in Florence and Milan again, as well as briefly in Rome, all while attracting a large following of imitators and students. Upon the invitation of Francis I, he spent his last 3 years in France, where he died in 1519. Since his death, there has not been a time where his achievements, diverse interests, personal life, and empirical thinking have failed to incite interest and admiration, making him a frequent namesake and subject in culture. Leonardo is identified as one of the greatest painters in the history of art and is often credited as the founder of the High Renaissance. Despite having many lost works and fewer than 25 attributed major works, including numerous unfinished works, he created some of the most influential paintings in Western art. His magnum opus, the Mona Lisa, is his best-known work and often regarded as the world's most famous painting. The Last Supper is the most reproduced religious painting of all time, and his Vitruvian Man drawing is also regarded as a cultural icon. In 2017, Solvitor Mundi, attributed in whole or part to Leonardo, was sold at auction for $450.3 million, setting a new record for the most expensive painting ever sold at public auction. Revered for his technological ingenuity, he conceptualized flying machines, a type of armored fighting vehicle, concentrated solar power, a ratio machine that could be used in an adding machine, and the double hull. Relatively few of his designs were constructed or were even feasible during his lifetime, as the modern scientific approaches to metallurgy and engineering were only in their infancy during the Renaissance. Some of his smaller inventions, however, entered the world of manufacturing unheralded, such as an automated bobbin winder and a machine for testing the tensile strength of wire. He made substantial discoveries in anatomy, civil engineering, hydrodynamics, geology, optics, and tribology, but he did not publish his findings and they had little to no direct influence on subsequent science. Biography. Early life, 1452 to 1472. Birth and background. Leonardo da Vinci's baptism record. Leonardo da Vinci, properly named Leonardo di Ser Piero da Vinci, b. Leonardo, son of Ser Piero from Vinci, was born on April 15, 1452 in, or close to, the Tuscan hill town of Vinci, 20 miles from Florence. He was born out of wedlock to Piero da Vinci, Ser Piero da Vinci d'Antonio di Ser Piero di Ser Guido, 1426 to 1504, a Florentine legal notary, and Caterina di Mio Lippi, circa 1434 to 1494, from the lower class. It remains uncertain where Leonardo was born. The traditional account, from a local oral tradition recorded by the historian Emanuele Rapetti, is that he was born in Anciano, a country hamlet that would have offered sufficient privacy for the illegitimate birth, though. It is still possible he was born in a house in Florence that Ser Piero almost certainly had. Leonardo's parents both married separately the year after his birth. Caterina, who later appears in Leonardo's notes as only Caterina or Caterina, is usually identified as the Caterina Buti del Vaca, who married the local artisan Antonio di Piero Buti del Vaca, nicknamed La Catabriga, the quarrelsome one. Ser Piero married Albiera Amadori, having been betrothed to her the previous year, and after her death in 1464, went on to have 3 subsequent marriages. From all the marriages, Leonardo eventually had 16 half-siblings, of whom 11 survived infancy, who were much younger than he. The last was born when Leonardo was 46 years old. And with whom he had very little contact. G. Photo of a building of rough stone with small windows, surrounded by olive trees. The possible birthplace and childhood home of Leonardo in Anciano, Vinci, Italy. Very little is known about Leonardo's childhood and much is shrouded in myth, partially because of his biography in the frequently apocryphal lives of the most excellent painters, sculptors, and architects. 1550, by 16th-century art historian Giorgio Vasari, tax records indicate that by at least 1457 he lived in the household of his paternal grandfather, Antonio da Vinci, 11, but it is possible that he spent the years before then in the care of his mother in Vinci, either Anciano or Campo Zeppi in the parish of San Pantaleone. He is thought to have been close to his uncle, Francesco da Vinci, but his father was probably in Florence most of the time. Ser Piero, who was the descendant of a long line of notaries, established an official residence in Florence by at least 1469 and had a successful career. Despite his family history, Leonardo only received a basic and informal education in vernacular, writing, reading, and mathematics, possibly because his artistic talents were recognized early, so his family decided to focus their attention there. Later in life, Leonardo recorded his earliest memory, now in the Codex Atlanticus. While writing on the flight of birds, he recalled as an infant when a kite came to his cradle and opened his mouth with its tail. Commentators still debate whether the anecdote was an actual memory or a fantasy. Verrocchio's workshop. Painting showing Jesus, naked except for a loincloth, standing in a shallow stream in a rocky landscape, while to the right, John the Baptist, identifiable by the cross that he carries, tips water over Jesus' head. Two angels kneel at the left. Above Jesus are the hands of God, and a dove descending. The Baptism of Christ, 1472–1475, by Verrocchio and Leonardo, Uffizi Gallery. In the mid-1460s, Leonardo's family moved to Florence, which at the time was the center of Christian humanist thought and culture. Around the age of he became a garzone, studio boy, in the workshop of Andrea del Verrocchio, who was the leading Florentine painter and sculptor of his time. This was about the time of the death of Verrocchio's master, the great sculptor Donatello. Leonardo became an apprentice by the age of 17 and remained in training for 7 years. Other famous painters apprenticed in the workshop or associated with it include Ghirlandaio, Perugino, Botticelli, and Lorenzo di Credi. Leonardo was exposed to both theoretical training and a wide range of technical skills, 38, including drafting, chemistry, metallurgy, metalworking, plaster casting, leather working, mechanics, and woodwork, as well as the artistic skills of drawing, painting, sculpting, and modeling. Leonardo was a contemporary of Botticelli, Ghirlandaio, and Perugino, who were all slightly older than he was. He would have met them at the workshop of Verrocchio or at the Platonic Academy of the Medici. 36. Florence was ornamented by the works of artists such as Donatello's contemporaries Masaccio, whose figurative frescoes were imbued with realism and emotion, and Ghiberti, whose Gates of Paradise, gleaming with gold leaf, displayed the art of combining complex figure compositions with detailed architectural backgrounds. Piero della Francesca had made a detailed study of perspective, and was the first painter to make a scientific study of light. These studies and Leon Battista Alberti's treatise De Pictura were to have a profound effect on younger artists and in particular on Leonardo's own observations and artworks. Much of the painting in Verrocchio's workshop was done by his assistants. According to Vasari, Leonardo collaborated with Verrocchio on his The Baptism of Christ, circa 1472–1475. Painting the young angel holding Jesus's robe with skill so far superior to his master's that Verrocchio purportedly put down his brush and never painted again, the latter claim probably being apocryphal. The new technique of oil paint was applied to areas of the mostly tempera work, including the landscape, the rock seen through the brown mountain stream, and much of Jesus's figure, indicating Leonardo's hand. Additionally, Leonardo may have been a model for 2 works by Verrocchio, the bronze statue of David in the Bargello and the Archangel Raphael in Tobias and the Angel. Vasari tells a story of Leonardo as a very young man. A local peasant made himself a round shield and requested that Ser Piero have it painted for him. Leonardo, inspired by the story of Medusa, responded with a painting of a monster spitting fire that was so terrifying that his father bought a different shield to give to the peasant and sold Leonardo's to a Florentine art dealer for 100 ducats, who in turn sold it to the Duke of Milan. First Florentine period, 1472 c. 1482. Adoration of the Magi circa 1478 to 1482, Uffizi, Florence. By 1472, at the age of 20, Leonardo qualified as a master in the Guild of St. Luke, the Guild of Artists and Doctors of Medicine, but even after his father set him up in his own workshop,